Welcome to Terraflora Studio, where forgotten things bloom again, and beauty begins with a second glance. In this quiet space, we gather stories, not just of gardens, but of how simple, time-worn objects can find new life among leaves and sunlight. Here, a rusted kettle might cradle herbs, a broken window may shelter seedlings, and a ladder, once reaching ceilings, now holds morning glories as they climb toward the sky. You don't need perfection to create something wonderful. Just intention, just warmth, just your own two hands. The goal is not to instruct with pressure, but to invite, to let each category open like a flower. You'll hear stories told slowly, tips offered softly, and scenes painted with gentle imagery. These are spaces you can build yourself, whether you have a grand backyard or simply a sunny corner waiting to be noticed. If these moments speak to you, if you find yourself dreaming alongside these repurposed wonders, then I gently invite you to subscribe to Terraflora Studio. Not for noise, not for numbers, but for more calm discoveries like these, shared week by week, petal by petal. Let's walk slowly through the garden together. Let's turn junk into joy, and let's never stop finding beauty in what others overlook. Welcome in Terraflora Studio. You know the feeling, standing in your tiny garden, longing for more space, more greenery, more life, and then you see it. A weathered wooden crate, tucked under the porch, forgotten after moving day. What if that crate could become the beginning of something beautiful? That's how this idea was born. The vertical herb tower, built not from shiny store-bought shelving, but from time-worn fruit crates found at a market stall and a neighbor's shed. Each crate stacked upon the next, slightly tilted, a little imperfect. Yet that's the charm. It invites you to embrace the rustic, the practical, and the poetic all at once. You don't need a large backyard. A single sun-drenched wall or a corner by the kitchen window is enough. Begin with 2 or 3 crates, sturdy and well-loved. Give them a simple scrub, but don't erase their history. Let the marks and stains remain. Drill a few drainage holes, line them with jute or burlap, and fill each layer with fresh potting soil. Choose herbs that thrive together. In the top crate, perhaps mint and thyme. In the middle, basil and oregano. And at the base, parsley and coriander, their stems reaching towards sunlight. Label them with wooden spoons or stones etched with their names. A humble detail that brings warmth and identity. Water slowly, letting it trickle through each level like a soft morning rain. You'll find that the scent of rosemary brushes against your hands as you pass by, and basil leaves greet you as you open the garden gate. The tower becomes more than a growing space. It becomes a memory keeper, a place where flavor begins with dirt under your nails and a bit of creative stubbornness. And when guests visit, they'll ask, "Where did you buy that?" You'll smile and say, "I didn't," because this, like many beautiful things, was simply built out of love, light, and leftovers. No need for big budgets or blueprints, just a few old crates, a handful of soil, and the desire to make something good with your own hands. Begins with a whisper of glass in the wind, an old pane resting in your hands, its frame chipped and worn, yet still holding the world inside. A salvaged window, once part of someone's living room or kitchen view, is about to be reborn, catching sunlight once again, but now for something slower, quieter, and more alive. This is the soul of the salvaged window mini greenhouse, a sanctuary for seedlings, built from forgotten pieces and patient afternoons. Each window, no matter how mismatched, finds its place like pages in a storybook. Some frames still where they're peeling paint, others fogged slightly with age, but together they shape a shelter that holds warmth and promise. Constructing this nook doesn't require mastery, only gentle hands and vision. Begin by choosing 4 or 5 reclaimed window panes. Set them side by side like puzzle pieces, securing them with wooden brackets, recycled hinges, or even rope if that's what's on hand. Form a cube or an angled lean-to. Perfection isn't the goal, personality is. Inside, place trays or small pots filled with potting mix. Let tomatoes start their climb in chipped mugs, and kale emerge from biscuit tins. Reuse egg cartons for lettuce starts, or turn glass jars into miniature greenhouses within the larger one. This space becomes a nursery of intention, plants growing because you made it possible with only what was near and what was loved. The beauty of a salvaged window greenhouse lies in its transparency. You can watch tiny seeds stretch toward morning light, fog gather as warmth builds, and rain gently patter overhead while your greens stay safe within. In winter, it holds the last autumn warmth. In spring, it births new green breath. You'll find yourself returning to it often, not just to water, but to pause, to listen to the creak of glass and the rustle of leaves, to remember that growth doesn't always need grandeur. Only sunlight, shelter, and time. And each time a seedling sprouts, it becomes a silent thank you for the effort, for the patience, for giving old windows a new view, not of cityscapes, but of something wilder, truer, and full of green hope. Sometimes beauty begins with rust, a forgotten metal pan tucked in the corner of your shed, once destined for the scrapyard, becomes the heart of something gentle, something alive. That's the quiet magic of a rustic hanging bird bath made from salvaged metal. It doesn't sparkle like a new fountain or hum with mechanics. Instead, it sways in the breeze, reflects the open sky, and offers something honest to every winged visitor who finds it. To create one is to honor both simplicity and life. Begin by finding a shallow metal bowl, a pan, even an old kitchen strainer. It should hold water, yes, but it should also hold memory. The echo of past meals, hands that once cleaned it, the years etched in every scrape and dent. Clean it gently, but not too much. Let it wear its story like a proud badge. Attach chains or thick twine to 3 or 4 evenly spaced holes near the rim. Let the cords converge in a loop or metal ring at the top. You can hang it from a tree limb, a sturdy pergola beam, or even a reclaimed iron hook screwed into your garden wall. Choose a spot where birds feel safe, near enough to sheltering branches but open enough to catch sunlight. Then, fill it with fresh water. That's all. No filters, no fuss. In just a few days, curious birds will arrive. Sparrows will flutter near. A finch might hop along the edge. On warmer afternoons, a blackbird may dip its wings and bathe, sending droplets flying like tiny diamonds through the air. This bird bath becomes a living centerpiece in your rustic garden. It doesn't demand attention, but it gives generously. A moment of quiet joy for you, a safe haven for them. And when your guests ask what store it came from, you'll trace their eyes upward and smile. That, you'll say, it was just an old pan and a little rope. In a world of fast purchases and polished perfection, this piece reminds us that beauty doesn't have to be bought. It can be repurposed, reborn, and made meaningful. Hanging from a branch, shimmering with rainwater, and reflecting the sky. Somewhere in your garden, the stories want to speak, and all they need is a bit of old wood and your hand to guide the brush. Scrap wood garden signs aren't just functional, they're memory markers. Tiny moments carved, painted, or written on sun-worn boards, telling the names of the plants you love or the dreams that brought your garden to life. They don't shout, they whisper in wood grain and faded paint. Begin with what you have: a discarded fence panel, a broken drawer front, even an old cutting board will do. These scraps, rich in texture, need not be sanded clean. Let them keep their knots, their stains, their edge of imperfection. That's what makes them belong in a rustic garden. Cut or break the wood into sign-sized pieces. Then, using leftover house paint, permanent marker, or even wood-burning tools if you have them, write what matters. Tomatoes. Hope. Welcome to my wild garden. Each sign becomes a page in your garden's slow and personal novel. Attach the boards to garden stakes, recycle broom handles, or nail them directly to a fence. Position them next to the plants they name, or tuck them into surprising corners where guests will smile upon discovery. You might even tie one with twine to an arch or trellis, letting it sway like a greeting in the breeze. You don't need artistic skill, just intention. Misspelled words, uneven letters, or smudged edges only deepen the charm. These aren't factory-made signs. They're garden confessions, declarations of love, handmade wayfinders in a green world you've grown yourself. Over time, the paint will fade. Rain will soften the strokes, but the signs will stay, quietly guiding, gently naming, always reminding. And as seasons pass, you may add new ones. Signs for new seedlings, messages for future visitors. Maybe one that simply says, "Thank you," planted where the sunlight falls soft at dusk. Because a garden is never just soil and seeds. It's also a reflection of the hands that shaped it, the heart that names it, and the scrap of wood that says, "Here is where something grows." A garden isn't only for people. It hums, flutters, and chirps with lives far smaller than our own. Lives that pollinate, protect, and paint the garden with movement. When you begin creating for them, something changes. The space becomes a haven not just for you, but for the whole chorus of wild visitors. Building a pollinator-friendly rustic garden doesn't require fancy kits or store-bought tools. It begins with a reverence for nature's small workers and a few upcycled treasures found in sheds, attics, or nature walks. Start with a simple insect hotel, a wooden crate or drawer filled with textures that invite life. Drill holes into old wooden blocks. Pack the nooks with hollow stems, pine cones, and bark. Stack it under a shrub or mount it on a wall. Almost magically, you'll find bees exploring, beetles nesting, and ladybugs taking shelter. For the birds, it's often enough to suspend a teacup from a tree. Find one with a crack or chip, something too imperfect for the cupboard but perfect for charm. Use natural twine or salvaged wire to loop the saucer underneath. Fill it with seed or crumbs, and before long, feathers will brush your mornings. Then comes the bee bath. Yes, even bees need to drink, but they can't land on open water. An old dish or bowl, filled with smooth stones and fresh water, becomes a vital oasis. Tuck it near your flowers. Change the water every few days, and observe how even the smallest lives seek refreshment under the sun. Plant flowers that bloom across seasons. Lavender, echinacea, thyme, calendula. Allow a bit of mess. Untamed corners, a fallen log. Pollinators don't need manicured perfection. They seek layers, nooks, scents. They seek what feels like home. And when the butterflies come, when bees buzz past your ear as you sip your tea, when the chirping returns at dusk, you'll know your rustic garden is alive in the deepest sense. Not curated, not forced, but woven into the web of something wilder. This is a space of mutual care, where what you plant, what you place, and what you repurpose speaks to the wild in every wing and root. Every garden has a beginning, a threshold, a soft signal that you're crossing from the ordinary into something more tender, more wild. That's the gift of a rustic entryway. It doesn't just mark space, it changes the pace of your breath, the way your heart listens. And sometimes that threshold is built not from precision or polish, but from driftwood and forgotten doors. A driftwood archway, shaped by water and time, brings nature's poetry into your hands. Each branch is curved and twisted, bleached by sun and smoothed by waves. Gather a few long pieces, balancing their weight and movement. Bind them with thick jute rope or rusted wire. No nails required, just tension, gravity, and a feel for how things rest together. Set the base of your arch at the entrance of your garden path or the transition between two growing zones. Let it lean into the earth's rhythm. You might not even anchor it permanently, just enough to hold through the seasons. Or perhaps your threshold takes a more storied form. Two vintage doors standing face to face, their hinges long stiffened, their paint flaked like cracked porcelain. Salvaged from flea markets or farm sheds, these doors no longer need to open. They only need to welcome. Secure them upright with simple wooden stakes or brace them into the ground with gravel and soil. Between them, suspend a wreath, a sign, or nothing at all. Let the empty space be its own quiet invitation. As time passes, let vines grow upward. Sweet pea, clematis, or morning glory will curl and bloom across the arch. A soft curtain of green, petals drifting in the breeze. Lanterns can hang from hooks, solar lights tucked nearby. This entryway becomes more than decor, it becomes ritual. You'll walk through it each morning with a cup of tea, brush past it after planting, pause beneath it in evening light. And when someone visits your garden, they'll stop at that threshold. They may not say why, but you'll see it, the way they exhale, how they notice the sky framed just so. That's what a gateway does. It slows time, turns space into meaning. It whispers, "You've arrived." Time moves gently in the garden. The seasons don't announce themselves loudly. They arrive in petal, in frost, in soft changes of light. And as each month turns, your garden becomes a new story. Why not decorate it like one? Monthly seasonal garden decor, crafted from upcycled and salvaged finds, allows you to celebrate each moment without ever leaving the rhythm of reuse. It's a gentle way to mark time, not with plastic or glitter, but with memory, nature, and handmade charm. In early spring, you might begin with faded tin cans, once used for soup, now painted in soft blues and pinks, tied with ribbons, and filled with tulips or hyacinths. Hang them from tree branches, line them on steps, or nestle them between mossy stones. Add spoon wind chimes, their music soft as the breeze that carries new beginnings. Come summer, switch to warmth and celebration. Salvaged glass bottles become vases for wildflowers. A wooden ladder, too rickety to climb, becomes a plant stand for potted sunflowers. Hang a bunting made from fabric scraps across your garden gate, and let solar fairy lights twinkle through balmy evenings. When autumn calls, rust and gold take the lead. Stack pumpkins inside an old wheelbarrow, tuck dried corn into a chipped enamel jug, and lay a repurposed wooden sign that says, "Harvest." Hay bales from last year's decor can now support baskets of apples or a handmade scarecrow with button eyes and twine hair. Winter brings stillness, but not silence. A simple shelf under your pergola can hold glass jars with tea lights, pine cones gathered from woodland walks, and wreaths made from wire hangers bent by hand and dressed in dried herbs or citrus slices. Wrap your reclaimed bench in a faded wool blanket. Even the quiet months deserve light and care. This cycle continues month after month, not with purchases, but with presents. You'll reuse, remake, and rediscover. Decorations don't go into boxes. They return to the earth or wait patiently on a shelf until the seasons call again. And when guests pass through your garden, they'll feel the time written in wood and twine. A story told not in words, but in petals and rust, cloth and candlelight. Your garden becomes a calendar, and each month, it sings a different song. Privacy doesn't have to mean walls. In a rustic garden, separation is softer. It's a whisper, not a barrier. It's an invitation to wonder what lies just beyond the vines, to pause at the frame of an opening, to feel enclosed without being enclosed. That's the charm of characterful fencing crafted from salvaged, soulful pieces. A garden fence doesn't need to be uniform. In fact, it shouldn't be. Use what the world has left behind. A stack of weathered shutters, collected over time from garage sales and forgotten homes. Stand them side by side, their faded colors forming a quiet patchwork of stories. Soft green, chipped white, powder blue. Let ivy find the spaces in between. Let light filter through, or gather old tin roofing panels, each one with rust like freckles across its surface. Arrange them upright, their roughness broken by baskets of flowers and wind chimes made from forks and bells. Suddenly, a hard material becomes tender, softened by touch, softened by purpose. For a more layered structure, use pallet wood. Disassemble, rearrange, and reimagine. Stand them tall. Leave gaps here and there. Attach salvaged window frames, not for function, but for framing the view. Through one, you'll see the herb patch. Through another, the garden bench. It makes the garden feel bigger, like rooms without ceilings. Fencing like this doesn't hide your garden. It defines it. It gives shape to the growing. And more than that, it tells a story. Because every mark in the wood, every spot of rust, every flake of paint, all of it has lived before. Now it lives again, in a space that feeds bees and butterflies in people's weary hearts. You don't need a carpenter's hand to build it. Just patience, a hammer, a few nails, maybe rope. What matters is how you arrange it. What matters is the invitation it gives. Not just to look in, but to come closer, to touch, to feel the garden breathing behind it. And when you sit near it in the evening, as lanterns flicker and petals close, you'll feel held. Not boxed in, but embraced. Fences, too, can be made of memory. There's a spot in every garden that seems to ask for stillness. A shaded corner where time slows, where the wind tells stories, and where the light pools in golden hush. That's where your seating goes, not the shiny patio set from a catalog, but something real, something found, repaired, reimagined. Begin with what was left behind. A wooden bench from a thrift store, its paint cracked like old porcelain. Sand just enough to soften the edges, then brush on a wash of color. Maybe soft sage, maybe cream. Don't cover the scars. Let them show. They're part of its warmth. Add cushions from leftover fabric or old curtains. Stuff them with what you have, cotton scraps, worn-out pillows. Wrap them in canvas or burlap for texture that ages well. A knitted throw tossed casually across the seat makes the space feel lived in, even before it's been sat in. Chairs can come mismatched. That's the beauty of salvage. No two things are alike. One chair might have a curved back and metal legs. Another may be straight-lined and wooden. Together, they speak of gathering. Together, they form the beginning of your garden's heart. Between them, place a small crate or stump as a table. Set a candle on top, or a mug, or a book. And suddenly, it's not just a place to sit. It's a scene from a quieter life. Build around the corner. Plant lavender for calm. Let jasmine climb behind you. Add a low wind chime made from keys or spoons. Make this a pocket of poetry in your garden. And when the day fades, you'll come here, not to work, not to weed, but to exhale. To sip, to rest, to dream. This corner wasn't bought. It was built slowly, lovingly. It carries stories in its paint, in its stitching, in the way it leans a little left. It's imperfect, and so are we. That's why we sit in places like this. To remember we don't need to be polished to feel peace. So let the chair creak, let the cushion fade, let the birds sing overhead and the tea go cold. In this salvaged corner, you are allowed to simply be. Corners of your home, there's often a drawer that won't close, a teapot with a crack, a colander rusting at the edge of usefulness. You could throw them away, But what if, instead, they bloomed? Rustic planters made from everyday junk invite us to see differently. Not as waste, but as wonder. A chipped drawer becomes a bed of succulents. A kettle, once whistling, now spills petunias. A colander, full of holes, finally cradles something that needs to breathe. Begin with exploration. Wander your own home, your neighbor's giveaway pile, the local thrift shop. Look not for what is perfect, but for what has presence. Rusted handles, faded paint, crooked lids. These are your palette. Drainage is key. Many of these items already offer it naturally: colanders, tea tins, and even old baskets. For those that don't, drill a few small holes or place broken pottery shards at the bottom before filling with soil. Let your plant choices speak with contrast. Hardy, trailing vines like nasturtium or ivy soften the hard edges of tin cans. Bright marigolds brighten dented enamel. Succulents thrive in shallow drawers and chipped bowls, adding a quiet drama with their symmetry. Placement is part of the poetry. Cluster your planters on a wooden bench, line them along a fence, or stack them casually atop an old ladder for height and surprise. Don't worry about alignment. Let whimsy guide your hands. You may find joy in the mix of textures. Rough wood beside polished metal, the cool gloss of ceramic next to the crumble of soil. These unexpected combinations give your garden depth, personality, and warmth. They say, someone made this, not with a manual, but with care. Over time, the planters will weather further. The paint will peel more, the metal will rust deeper, and the plants will drape lower. Let it happen. That's part of the rustic story. Things age, and in aging, they settle into beauty. And perhaps the most wonderful thing? These planters cost you nothing but a little imagination. They saved something from the landfill. They gave a new stage to blooms. And they turned your garden into a gallery of everyday redemption. Because what grows from what was once discarded reminds us we, too, can bloom again. As the sun begins to slip behind the treetops, the garden doesn't end. It transforms. Light takes a softer shape, shadows lengthen, and everything hums just a little quieter. This is the hour when rustic lighting begins its gentle work, carried by tin, glass, and flame. Mason jar and tin can lighting invites you to paint your evenings with a glow made by your own hands. No electricity, no plastic lanterns, just the soft magic of reclaimed light. Begin with a handful of mason jars, their glass fogged by time or storage. Rinse them, but let the imperfections stay. Wrap the necks with jute or wire, forming simple loops for hanging. Inside, place tea lights, real or solar, as your heart allows. Hang them from branches, pergolas, or hooks along a fence. As dusk deepens, they'll bloom into fireflies of glass, each one catching a flicker of breeze and light. Tin cans offer a different kind of poetry. Collect them after meals, scrub away the labels, and give them a soft patina of age. Then, with a nail and hammer or a drill, create small patterns: stars, spirals, initials, wildflowers. The holes don't need to be precise. Their charm lies in their roughness. Set a candle within each can and place them along pathways, under benches, or beside flower beds. When night falls, light pours from the holes in little rivers of radiance, marking your steps with starlight. Want something that glows longer? Slip solar garden lights into your jars and mount them to reclaimed wood, perhaps a pallet board leaned against a wall. Add dried herbs, pebbles, or even pine cones for texture. These glowing jars become rustic beacons, guiding you gently through evening hours. There is no need to match or measure. Let each jar and can speak its own soft story. The light will not be uniform, but that's what makes it beautiful. Each flicker, each shimmer, reminds you, this garden is not mass-produced. It's yours, honest, handmade, alive. So when the sky fades and the air turns cool, step out into your softly lit garden. Let the glow lead you inward. Let it show you that even small, repurposed things can shine with warmth and soul. There's a place where the magic begins, not in the flowers, but in the hands that prepare the soil. This is your potting bench, your garden table, your sacred, soil-dusted corner. It doesn't have to be new. In fact, it shouldn't be. Let it carry the past. Let it smell of wood and seasons. Rustic garden tables and potting benches are born from what others leave behind. A wobbly desk, a scratched cabinet, a forgotten pantry shelf. With just a bit of care and a brush of imagination, these objects become stations of purpose. Start with a sturdy base. An old door laid over 2 crates becomes an instant potting table. A retired desk, stripped of its drawers, welcomes seedlings. Sand the wood lightly. Leave the paint peeling, the corners softened by time. These details are not flaws. They're fingerprints of use. Add hooks from leftover nails or drawer pulls to hang your shears, your trowel, your gloves still dusted in compost. Attach a shelf above for clay pots, and repurpose an old drawer for twine and seed packets. Label glass jars by hand. Let organization become art. This bench is not only for potting, it's for pausing, for admiring the root of a sprout, for wiping your brow, for sipping tea while bees hum nearby. In time, it becomes more than workspace, it becomes altar. On summer evenings, your garden table becomes a host. It holds bunches of herbs tied with twine. It bears bowls of fresh-picked tomatoes, catches fallen petals and fingerprints. Maybe it's surrounded by friends. Maybe it's just you watching the light change. Add a stool or chair if you like. Let the grass grow tall around it. Let vines dangle from above. There's no need for perfection here, only presence. And when visitors see it, the chipped paint, the crowded shelves, the scent of lavender drying in the corner, they'll feel it. This is where the garden breathes. This is where hands become part of the earth again. So don't buy new. Reclaim the forgotten. Let your potting bench tell your garden's quiet origin story, one spoonful of soil at a time. There's something poetic about a path that doesn't go straight. One that bends gently, that pauses, that invites you to slow down and look. And when that path is made from broken things, old tiles, mossy bricks, forgotten wood, it tells a story not just of where you're going, but how you got there. A rustic pathway with mismatched, repurposed edges doesn't try to impress. It tries to welcome. Begin with what you have or what others have tossed aside. Cracked plates, worn bricks, pieces of roof tile, slices of old tree limbs. Gather them slowly, like collecting memories. Let each piece be different. Let them surprise you. Start your path not with a blueprint, but with a feeling. Where does your garden want you to walk? From the gate to the herbs? Around the roses to the bench? Lay out the stepping stones first. Use irregular slabs, wooden slices, even flattened tin pieces if they're safe. There's no right rhythm, just the one that feels natural beneath your feet. Now for the edges. Half-bury old ceramic plates along one side, their curved rims catching light and soil. Stack driftwood branches or reclaimed bricks loosely on the other. Place chipped tiles upright, like teeth of time, or layer slate like fallen leaves. The goal is not symmetry, it's curiosity. In between, plant moss, creeping thyme, or clover. These gentle greens soften every step, cushioning the eye and soothing the soul. They blur the line between path and earth. This kind of walkway becomes more than a route, it becomes an experience. With each step, your foot meets texture. The cool of stone, the grain of wood, the memory of someone's dinner plate now blooming beside daisies. When it rains, the edges glisten. When the sun sets, they cast soft shadows. When guests arrive, they'll ask, "Did you make this?" And you'll smile because you didn't just make it, you grew it one discarded piece at a time. There's beauty in the broken when it's laid down with care. And there's magic in knowing your path was once a collection of fragments. And now, it leads to something whole. unspoken grace in the way plants reach up. They stretch without urgency, following light in patient spirals. To help them, we need only offer a structure, a humble invitation. And sometimes that invitation comes in the form of an old ladder, long retired from attic climbs or orchard picks, now reclaimed as part of the garden's quiet architecture. Rustic vertical supports made from reclaimed ladders bring both beauty and purpose. Their frames, whether wood or metal, speak of years past. But in the garden, they rise again, this time not for people, but for petals. Start with a ladder that's past its prime. A wooden one with missing rungs or an iron step ladder with flaking paint. Don't worry about its flaws, in fact, seek them. These imperfections hold the soul of rustic design. Lean it against a wall or fence, or anchor it gently into the soil of a raised bed. For more drama, join two together to form an A-frame, secured at the top with rope. Between the legs, stretch twine, attach mesh, or simply let the vines find their own way. Then choose your climbers. Sweet peas with their curling tendrils, morning glories that bloom at dawn, tomatoes eager for support, or even grapes if you're dreaming long-term. These plants will wind their way up the rungs as if remembering how to ascend. You can also use each step as a stage. Place small pots on the steps, thyme, basil, or marigolds in mismatched containers. Hang lanterns, wind chimes, or signs from the sides. Suddenly, a ladder becomes a layered story of function and grace. As weeks pass, green will rise, leaves will unfurl, and blossoms will peek through the wooden frame. The ladder will fade deeper into the garden, not disappearing, but blending, rooted not in task, but in peace. Visitors may ask, why a ladder? But as they follow the vines upward and listen to the bees hum around it, they'll understand. It's not just support, it's presence. Something that once held weight, now holding life. Because in a garden, everything has a second chance to rise. There's an unspoken grace in the way plants reach up. They stretch without urgency, following light in patient spirals. To help them, we need only offer a structure, a humble invitation. And sometimes that invitation comes in the form of an old ladder, long retired from attic climbs or orchard picks, now reclaimed as part of the garden's quiet architecture. Rustic vertical supports made from reclaimed ladders bring both beauty and purpose. Their frames, whether wood or metal, speak of years past. But in the garden, they rise again, this time not for people, but for petals. Start with a ladder that's past its prime. A wooden one with missing rungs or an iron step ladder with flaking paint. Don't worry about its flaws, in fact, seek them. These imperfections hold the soul of rustic design. Lean it against a wall or fence, or anchor it gently into the soil of a raised bed. For more drama, join two together to form an A-frame, secured at the top with rope. Between the legs, stretch twine, attach mesh, or simply let the vines find their own way. Then choose your climbers. Sweet peas with their curling tendrils, morning glories that bloom at dawn, tomatoes eager for support, or even grapes if you're dreaming long-term. These plants will wind their way up the rungs as if remembering how to ascend. You can also use each step as a stage. Place small pots on the steps, thyme, basil, or marigolds in mismatched containers. Hang lanterns, wind chimes, or signs from the sides. Suddenly, a ladder becomes a layered story of function and grace. As weeks pass, green will rise, leaves will unfurl, and blossoms will peek through the wooden frame. The ladder will fade deeper into the garden, not disappearing, but blending, rooted not in task, but in peace. Visitors may ask, why a ladder? But as they follow the vines upward and listen to the bees hum around it, they'll understand. It's not just support, it's presence. Something that once held weight, now holding life. Because in a garden, everything has a second chance to rise. So we come to the quiet for walking alongside us. Step by step, through forgotten drawers turned into planters, through shutters that now shield vines, and ladders that gently hold the sky. These weren't just ideas, they were invitations to see beauty in rust, in grain, in the curve of an old spoon catching sunlight. Here at Terraflora Studio, we believe in the soft magic of renewal. We believe that creativity doesn't live in shopping lists or perfect plans, but in your willingness to look again at what's broken, what's buried, what's waiting. Because sometimes the most meaningful things begin with a single nail, a bit of soil, and a change of heart. Let this not be the end, but a beginning. Maybe tomorrow you'll rescue a crate, or turn a mirror into a window for sunlight and memory. Maybe, just maybe, your hands will plant something no one else saw coming. If this journey brought you peace, if it sparked even the smallest dream in a corner of your day, then we warmly invite you to subscribe to Terraflora Studio. Not for loud tutorials, but for stories. Not for fast content, but for slow beauty woven into every frame. Each week, we'll bring you more ideas like these, rooted in simplicity, crafted with calm, and always guided by love for the earth and the old things it still cradles. Until next time, may your garden grow, not just with flowers, but with meaning. This is Terraflora Studio, where things bloom again. Thank you for being here.